After analyzing more than 7 million miles driven, Waymo claims its autonomous driving system had an 85% reduction in injury-causing crash rates compared to human driver benchmarks. Quoting The Verge, Waymo analyzed 7.13 million fully driverless miles in 3 cities, Phoenix, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, and compared the data to human driving benchmarks to determine whether its cars were involved in fewer injury-causing and police-reported crashes. And it was the first time the company studied miles from fully driverless operations only, rather than a mix of autonomous and human-monitored driving. The conclusion? Waymo's driverless cars were 6.7 times less likely than human drivers to be involved in a crash resulting in an injury, or an 85% reduction over the human benchmark, and 2.3 times less likely to be in a police-reported crash, or a 57% reduction. That translates to an estimated 17 fewer injuries and 20 fewer police-reported crashes compared to if a human driver would have driven the same distance in the cities where Waymo operates. Waymo's millions of miles were not totally incident-free. The company said that in total, over the entire 7 million plus miles in all 3 cities, its vehicles were only involved in 3 crashes that resulted in injuries, 2 in Phoenix and 1 in San Francisco. All 3 injuries were minor, according to Christopher Cusano, safety researcher at Waymo and a co-author of the study. Still, that's significantly less than the crash rate for human drivers. Another way to look at it is to look at the crash rate per million miles of driving. The human benchmark is 2.78 incidents per million miles. Waymo's benchmark for its driverless vehicles was only 0.41. The analysis comes on the heels of a study that Waymo published in conjunction with Swiss Re that found that the company's driverless vehicles reduced the frequency of bodily injury claims by 100% compared to Swiss Re's human baseline of 1.11 claims per million miles, end quote. Gee, I wonder why they're releasing this data now. Something. Remember what happened to Cruise recently. Funny thing about this is they've had to wait all this time to get these numbers out because they had to wait to get enough miles to make it statistically significant. Only now have they driven enough to start extrapolating from the data in a meaningful way. 7 million miles driven in this study, but Americans drive 3.2 trillion miles a year. We take 1.1 billion trips a day, 4, by the way, for every person. So somebody do the math for me. How many miles is that a year or a day? It's obviously in the billions, probably hundreds of billions. The fact that they've only driven 7 million miles in this study shows you the vast yawning gap that they have to jump in terms of scale to compare this with real-world driving. I'm not snarking here. This data is great. We all expect and hope that autonomous vehicle cars will be safer than far more fallible human drivers. I'm just saying, for all of the talk of autonomous vehicle hype, look at how early this all still is.